Event 2 of the Brazil CrossFit Championship. We go from the sprint of Friendly Fran to one of the longest events of the weekend. I'm Sean Woodland with Annie Sakamoto as 2 women, 2 men, and 2 teams look to take the next step towards a trip to Madison, Wisconsin and the 2021 Noble CrossFit Games. And we start on the men's side. Your overall standings after the first event are the same as the results from event 1. Gui Malheiros comes in with your overall lead, followed by Agustin Richelme, Ivan Verdun, Omar Martinez, and Kaique Cerveny rounding out the top 5. Event 2, 400 total repetitions of 4 different movements. It's an up and back chipper, and buried right in the middle, 100 single arm dumbbell overhead squats. And coming into our featured matchup, Annie, it's Nicholas Bedarte who has the time to beat at 13 minutes, 17 seconds.
Yeah, and you know, Sean, I think this is really where he stands at an advantage. Being part of that underdog athletics crew, he has a team that he's training with. He has, you know, a lot of really good athletes. They can push him, even if it's not within this event. He's used to pushing against other athletes. And when we're talking about a virtual event where you don't know if and when you're pushing hard enough, he's at the advantage there.
Box assignments presented by CBD MD, starting in the upper left. It's Gui Malheiros. Next to him in the middle, Agustin Richelme, and then Ivan Verdun in the upper right. Bottom row, Omar Martinez, Kaique Cerveny, and Joao Pedro Barcelos in the bottom right. As we get set to kick off one of the longer events of the competition. 400 total reps here, and we start on the 50 dumbbell shoulder to overheads.
And you saw those athletes had to pick up their dumbbells first thing and move them forward. They have to have all of their movements done in those certain boxes or lanes within the event.
Each athlete will have a progress bar above his box. As that moves to the right, that will indicate the progress of the athlete in that box. Early stages here, a lot of work to be done.
Right, you saw Omar Martinez take a break right away. Probably a smart move. You know, you're feeling good on those 50 shoulder to overhead, but when it gets to that 100 overhead squats, your shoulders are going to be taxed. So you see him take another quick break right there. I think that's actually probably a really good move on Omar's part.
And Barcelos and Malheiros also took a couple quick breaks, or a quick break, as they work through this initial set of 50 dumbbell shoulder to overheads. After this, they'll move forward, and then it's the 50 dumbbell deadlifts, and Cerveny is already on to that movement, as is Agustin Richelme. So the 2 men in the middle, Richelme at the top of your screen, Cerveny at the bottom. They are on their 50 dumbbell deadlifts. Just the front of that dumbbell needs to make contact with the ground.
Right, Ivan, the only one still on the dumbbell shoulder to overhead, but there he is. He moves forward into the next square. That's the sign that he's going to start those dumbbell deadlifts. You know, Sean, dumbbell deadlifts can actually really tax your shoulders as well. Besides your grip, besides your midline, obviously besides your posterior, that can get really spicy on those shoulders. And when you think about what's ahead of these gentlemen, again, right here, it might be smart to take a break or two.
If you had to tackle this event, how do you think you would carve it up?
I think that, you know, the 35 pounds for me is a bit heavy, but I think I would actually do at least, you know, 3 to 4 sets on those shoulder to overhead. I think a lot of this, it's not necessarily how fast you get to the dumbbell overhead squat, but how fast you can get through those 100 reps of overhead squat. So the better you can feel getting there, I think the longer you can kind of stave off that shoulder and midline fatigue, the better you're going to do through those 100 reps.
Agustin Richelme, he's in the top box in the middle. He's the athlete with no shirt on. Both he and Kaique Cerveny got to the GHG at about the same time. Gui Malheiros in the upper left, he was 3rd. And now Barcelos is on to the GHGs, as is Omar Martinez. So Ivan Verdun right now in 6th place in this featured matchup.
And I believe that is Lari Cunha with Guilherme Malheiros. And that's a huge advantage for Gui if you think about it, you know, to have another high-end athlete that you're doing the event next to that can help push you, definitely a huge advantage. I believe they're training partners.
A little more than 3 minutes have gone by, and Ivan Verdun now the last man into the GHDs. 50 reps here, and then It's on to the middle of this event, the 100 single arm dumbbell overhead squats. They are allowed to switch arms however often they want.
Yeah, no minimum work requirement on arms as far as that goes. You can switch whenever.
Richelme and Cerveny, that's your battle for first place in the middle of your screen, with Gui Malheiros in third.
And I would imagine that most of these gentlemen, after the quarterfinals, if not before, have done their fair share of GHD sit-ups. So really, this is just kind of a little nuisance for those overhead squats. Verdun takes a quick break on those GHD sit-ups.
Richelme and Cerveny are done, and they're moving back to the dumbbells. Richelme, and the box in the middle of your screen in the upper row. He is the athlete in the long, looks like he's got shorts with maybe some compression tights underneath those with no shirt on. And then Kaique Cerveny at the bottom. That's your battle for the top 2 spots here. At 50 reps, they'll be halfway through this event. Now Omar Martinez is hoisting the dumbbell overhead, and he will get to work on his 100 overhead squats. Gui Malheiros has now fallen back into 4th, and now Malheiros making his way to the dumbbell, trying to catch Martinez for 3rd place.
And you see both Joao and Ivan taking a couple quick breaks on those GHDs. You know, versus those other guys who were able to just go slow and steady all the way through them. Those breaks could cost them in the end as far as their overall time goes. Joao is done though, and he's to his dumbbell.
It'll take some time to chalk up before he gets to work, and now Ivan Verdun is done, and he will get to the dumbbell. So every athlete in this featured matchup onto the middle portion of this event, the 100 single arm overhead dumbbell squats. Again, you can switch hands as much as you need to, whenever you need to.
But you know, if you've done dumbbell overhead squats, when you find that right position with that lockout and that dumbbell is just waiting you perfectly, you know, a lot of times it can be a really good idea to just hold out as long as you can. You find a rhythm, you kind of get in the groove, things feel good. I expect these guys to do some big sets on each arm.
Agustin Richelme looks like he may have just switched arms in the middle of your screen. Kaique Cerveny taking a break. Gui Malheiros is churning away at a pretty steady pace here. I haven't seen him put the dumbbell down yet.
Yeah, you look at the pace of Gui. It's a bit slower than all the other gentlemen. But again, look at him. He just switches, goes right back to that other arm. He doesn't even put it down. So that slower pace may allow him to breathe through the reps a little bit better, which means he never has to put the dumbbell down.
Saw both Barcelos and Verdun with the dumbbell on the ground. Richelme and Cerveny so far have been pretty fast when they've switched hands. Cerveny putting the dumbbell down there to do that, but we've seen Richelme and Malheiros, as Annie was talking about, not even put the dumbbell on the ground to switch. Leaders coming into this movement: Agustin Richelme at the top of your screen, Kaique Cerveny, who just put the dumbbell down, and then Omar Martinez passed Gui Malheiros on the GHDs, and Martinez in the bottom left held on the 3rd place heading into this movement. But Gui Malheiros has been moving at a pretty good clip, and if you look at the progress bars, they are about even right now. As Martinez has the dumbbell down, Malheiros continues to work.
And if you notice, Sean, look at how they have to keep that dumbbell horizontal. It's a bit harder that way than if you can actually just face it back. When you tip it back and have it in a more vertical position, it can actually help kind of keep it in place. That horizontal position is a little bit tougher.
It is natural sometimes when you do these overhead movements to just hang it, hold it by the very top, and let it sort of just pull your arm back.
Exactly.
They seem to be careful not to do that because they can incur a penalty if they're not meeting that standard.
Well, and if you went to the game site and you watched all of the videos, they were very specific about all of these standards. And I just hope that all of these athletes took the time to watch these videos, because it's a shame to get a penalty. And, you know, like we talked about, virtual competition, it's much easier to incur a major penalty versus a minor penalty.
Richelme and Cerveny are still your leaders, both of them now making their way back through these movements. Richelme and Cerveny to the GHD for the 2nd time at about the same time. Omar Martinez in the bottom left was in third place coming into this movement. And then Gui Malheiros in the upper left, he was in fourth. Now it looks like Malheiros has taken the lead, and he will move back for his 50 GHD. So Malheiros now in front of Martinez in that race for third place.
For those guys that were able to switch and not put the dumbbell down, it's great because, you know, once you put the dumbbell down, it doesn't matter if it's after 5 reps or 25 reps, it feels the same. So the longer you can keep that dumbbell up and the bigger amount of work you can get done, the better off you are. Joao is done and back to his GHD, as is Martinez. So Ivan is the only one left on those overhead squats.
He's put down the dumbbell quite a few times during this set of 100. Richelme and Cerveny in the middle of your screen. They are the two fighting for the lead in this featured matchup. Gui Malheiros was able to overtake Omar Martinez and now sits in third place. And Martinez is now back in fourth.
It'll be interesting to see how these guys attack the back half. I think at this point, you know, you kind of have to almost just go for broke, right? You have nothing left. The dumbbells aren't going to affect your shoulder to, the deadlifts aren't going to affect your shoulder to overhead that much. So, you know, now it's almost like you go to near failure on the back half of this event.
Gui Malheiros taking a break at the top of his, and Richelme is getting out of the GHCs, and he is now done. Richelme in the upper middle part of your screen onto the 50 dumbbell deadlifts, his second set of 50. He is in the lead. He's the athlete with no shirt on the top middle of your screen, and Cerveny in the bottom middle is now falling back. Cerveny in second place, followed by Malheiros and Martinez.
After those 100 overhead squats, though, these GHDs must be so painful. You know, on the front end, it's not too bad, but by the second half, your quads are so lit up from all of those overhead squats. Never mind how lit up your midline is, just trying to hang on to those GHDs gets really tough.
Agustin Richelme continuing to lead here. Upper middle part of your screen, the athlete with no shirt on is working on his set of 50 dumbbell deadlifts, as is Kaique Cerveny, who came into this movement in second place, and now Gui Malheiros has moved on to the dumbbell deadlifts, as has Omar Martinez. And Malheiros picking up the pace here. He's a little slower on those GHDs, but now really trying to make up some time here on the final two movements.
And this is a great movement to do it on the dumbbell deadlifts. As long as you hit that hip and knee extension, these are not a movement you want to do slow. 50 pounds for these guys is no big deal. It's time to put your foot on the gas when you get to those deadlifts. Omar, it looks like he's almost sitting down right there.
Taking a break, but he kept his hands on the dumbbells the entire time. Kaique Cerveny took a quick break. He's back to work. Gui Malheiros, I don't think he stopped in the set of 50.
Nope, his only pause was at the top versus the bottom there.
And now Agustin Richelme is onto his set of 50 dumbbell shoulder to overheads. He's the first man on this final movement. 12 minutes gone by, 25-minute time cap in this event. Won't be a problem for any of these gentlemen, as Richelme looks to win this featured matchup.
Ivan Verdun, who's actually the only athlete in this, within these 6 athletes that's over the age of 30, has moved on to his dumbbell deadlifts. And look how fast he's moving through those.
Richelme taking a break on his shoulder to overhead. Cerveny is now on his shoulder to overhead, and now Gui Malheiros is there as well. So Malheiros ahead of Omar Martinez in that race for third place, and trying to put a little pressure on Cerveny for second here.
I like what you said about Omar Martinez, though. I love that even when he takes a break, I was going to say he keeps his hands on his dumbbells. He must have heard me talking about him right there because he took them off.
Richelme with a good clip here on these dumbbells shoulder to overhead. Gui Malheiros has taken a break. Cerveny has taken a break. And Richelme now in the back half of this final set of 50. Malheiros looks like judging by his progress bar, that he is creeping closer to Cerveny right now.
Look how fast Omar Martinez is going on these dumbbells shoulder to overhead though. I think he's gonna make up some time. If he can keep that pace, pick these dumbbells back up, that was a fast set. Cerveny's closing in. You can see Richelme's almost done. Look at his progress bar.
He was already in, so Richelme's time will be 13:38, and he will win this featured matchup. Gui Malheiros is in, as is Kaique Cerveny. So Cerveny beats Malheiros by just 2 seconds, so a great charge at the end from Malheiros, but wasn't enough as Cerveny holds him off for second place in this featured matchup. 3 athletes left working here, and plenty of time to go before we hit that 25-minute time cap. And again, it will not be a problem for any of these men.
Nope.
Omar Martinez is your leader and only has a couple more reps to go before he closes out his final set of 50, and he'll lock up 4th place in this featured matchup, and that'll leave Verdun and Barcelos.
He's done at 14:26, so fight to the finish with Ivan Verdun and Joao Barcelos here. Ivan's got those dumbbells back up. Again, everything is just burning at this point. And every time you put those dumbbells down, you got to pick them back up. You know, it's one thing to take breaks on those deadlifts, but on those shoulder to overhead, you got to get them back up to those shoulders. So you got to be smart about some of those breaks.
Judging by the progress bar, it looks like Verdun is hanging on to a slight lead over Barcelos. Barcelos cut into it a little bit with that last set. Now Verdun tightening his belt and getting back to work here.
Looks like by his progress bar, he's so close to done. Hopefully he can finish it in this last set, as can Barcelos.
Just completed 20, now 21 on that set did Verdun. And he is done 15:37 for 5th place in this featured matchup. And Barcelos is just about done. Final reps for him, and he will take 6th with a time of 15:49.
Second event of the day and second close race for Agustin Richelme, this time with Kaique Cerveny, as both athletes get through the 100 overhead squat turnaround point at about the same time, but Richelme picks up 19 seconds on the second set of GHD sit-ups, and that would prove to be the difference maker. After losing a close one on event 1, he gets one back in event number 2.
Nicolas Badarte's time of 13:17 earns him 100 points as he wins the event. Agustin Richelme will finish in second. Gui Malheiros, his time is now 15:11. He received a major penalty because of the dumbbell orientation on his overhead squats. Your overall standings now heading into day number 2 is Agustin Richelme with 192 points, and then a 3-way tie for second between Malheiros, Cerveny, and Martinez, with Nicolas Badarte rounding out the top 5. And Fabio Brokovic spoke with the man who's in second place, Gui Malheiros.
So, wow, you've been to the games twice officially, like as a teenager, and you finished second place, and then in 20
times. Yeah.
Yeah, like 2019 is an elite athlete, right? So I want to know, because there's a lot of pressure from your fans for you to get this spot, does this pressure help you fire up the performances, or does it scare you somehow?
Yeah, I believe that the pressure by my fans is a privilege. Only the best ones can have the privilege to have this pressure. So I believe that this pressure fires me up, because I can push myself to correspond this pressure, and it's very good.
So despite the penalty, Gui Malheiros well within striking distance for that for the top spot, and still tied for second.
Right, and you know, this could be a situation that we're talking about all weekend, Sean, and these athletes have had these videos, they've known these events, so I hope that, you know, after they're getting some of these penalties, they're going back, re-watching the videos, re-looking at these movement standards so that they don't incur these penalties again.
Let's go to the women's side of things now. Here are your overall standings coming into event number 2, and they are the same as your results from event number 1. Lari Cunha, she is your overall leader after putting up a time of 3:43, the only woman to go sub-4 in that first event. Valentina Rangel sits in second. Sasha Nievas, Luiza Diaz, and Tyus Nunes are there inside the top 5. Remember, spots 1 and 2 go to the games. 3, 4, and 5 get a spot in the last chance online qualifier. Your time to beat belongs to Victoria Campos heading into this featured matchup. 12 minutes, 59 seconds. That's blistering.
That is blistering fast. And, you know, Victoria is not a name that we've heard of a bunch. And this is what I love about these events. We're going to see some names pop up, some events that really suit some of these ladies. But like you said, 12:59. I mean, there are very few breaks. She's moving so quick through this entire event. And I hope that this is a sign of how her entire weekend is going to go.
Box assignments presented by CBD MD. Starting in the upper left, it's Larissa Cunha, Valentina Rangel next to her, and then Sasha Nievas in the upper right. In the bottom row, Luiza Diaz, Tyus Nunes, and Melina Rodriguez. 400 total repetitions in event number 2, and as we showed you coming into this, the time to beat Victoria Campos, 12:59, and we begin with the 50 dumbbell shoulder to overheads, 35 pounds on the dumbbells for the women.
Look how fast Larissa Cunha is moving on those dumbbell shoulder to overheads right there. Not to mention Sasha Nievas.
A lot of work to be done in this event. 50 reps on the first 3 movements, and then that giant set of the 100 single arm dumbbell overhead squats.
It'll be interesting to see what kind of breaks these ladies take. Larissa Cunha seems to be the first one to take a purposeful break, and I think that's smart, Sean. I think you know, you need to save those shoulders for those dumbbell overhead squats that are coming.
Melina Rodriguez in the bottom right, she's taking a break as well. Nunes, Rangel, Nievas, Cunha. Now moving on is Larissa Cunha to her dumbbell deadlifts. Nievas is there as well, as is Rangel. And Luiza Diaz in the bottom left.
Similar to the men's event, Sean, of event 2. 3 Brazilians in this event, 2 Argentinians, and 1 non-Brazilian and Argentinian in Valentina Rangel. She's from Colombia. All these ladies onto those deadlifts.
50 reps here, and then it's on to the 50 GHDs. Progress bar in red above each athlete's box will continue to fill in from left to right as they move through the event.
Tyus takes a break on those deadlifts, and I don't blame her. You know, we were talking earlier, dumbbell deadlifts can actually tax those shoulders a little bit. So kind of a good idea, in my opinion, to take a quick break. It's easy to pick those dumbbells back up versus the shoulder to overhead movement.
Lari Cunha, first woman into the GHDs. Valentina Rangel right behind her. Nievas is there, and Diaz is the 4th woman there, which leaves Nunes and Rodriguez as the only 2 athletes still on their first set of 50 dumbbell deadlifts. So Cunha in the upper left is your leader as she tries to chase down the time to beat of 12 minutes, 59 seconds from Victoria Campos.
So much work left to be done though, Sean. You know, just because these ladies are ahead now, I think so much of this event is going to come down to those 100 dumbbell overhead squats. So, you know, I don't know that it's a bad thing that somebody like Melina Rodriguez is quote unquote behind right now.
Cunha, Rangel, and Nievas, the first 3 women to the GHDs. They are your leaders early on here. Diaz was right behind them. She's in your bottom left box on your screen, and she is in 4th place with Nunes and Rodriguez fighting for 5th. Cunha in the upper left has continued to move at this pace throughout this movement.
So fast. Look at how fast Sasha's glute ham sit-ups are as well. Really, really fast. Luiza with a quick break on those GHD sit-ups.
Meanwhile, Cunha continuing to lead here and is now done with her 50 GHDs and moving on to the dumbbell, as is Nievas for their overhead squat. So Cunha's going to get there first and get a couple of reps in before Nievas has that thing hoisted overhead. Now Nievas working on her set of 100. Just two women in this featured matchup. In the middle of this event, the 100 single arm dumbbell overhead squats, and they can switch hands however often they like.
And you notice how many breaks Valentina's having to take on that GHD now. They might be purposeful, but we will see, especially on that second set of GHD sit-ups. Cunha and Nievas doing a nice big set on this first arm. We were talking earlier, you know, once that dumbbell's locked into a good position, you might as well get as many reps off as you can.
There is certainly a groove with this movement that once you find it, you really don't want to get out of it. We saw Nievas switch hands above her head. Cunha switched hands as well. Lari Cunha in the upper left-hand part of your screen. She is your leader here in this featured matchup. Time to beat 12:59 from Victoria Campos.
Luiza Diaz just did a really great switch overhead too, and we were talking about this earlier. You know, it feels the same when you put that dumbbell down, whether it's 5 reps in or 25 reps in. So I think the longer you can hold off on putting the dumbbell on the ground, the better off you are. Melina Rodriguez is moving through those overhead squats. She looks like she's got them in a comfortable position.
Rodriguez is one of the last athletes to this movement, but if she keeps up this pace, she could maybe move herself into a battle for one of the top 3 spots here in this featured matchup. She is looking good on this middle portion of the event. Cunha taking some time to switch again, lowers the dumbbell down to her shoulder, lifts it back overhead, and she is back to work. 100 total reps on this movement, and it's back through the first 3 movements. So return to the GHD. Will Cunha, after these 100 reps, and then perform 50 more GHD sit-ups, 400 total repetitions in this event.
And you can see Sasha's pace is slowing down, but I don't know that that's a horrible thing, Sean. I think, you know, she can catch her breath a little bit on some of those slower overhead squats. It's not how fast you do each rep, it's how fast you can get through all 100.
And not only do you have to worry about getting below parallel, you have to worry about the position of the dumbbell here. There is a standard that you have to adhere to on that.
Right, it has to be horizontal. And again, this is one of those things where you could be inadvertently, you know, cheating. You don't even know it, but if you haven't watched the standards video, if you haven't read through all of the literature, you can end up costing yourself a lot of time in a penalty. Super important to be watching all of these videos that CrossFit has put out as far as how to execute these events.
All right, Cunha has switched arms again. Now her left hand held over her head with that 35-pound dumbbell. And she is done with her 100 dumbbell overhead squats. She will return her dumbbell to the other one. And now back to the GHD. So Laura Cunha, your leader here in this featured matchup. Time to beat again, 12:59 from Victoria Campos. And Cunha, if she hurries, might have a shot at that. And now Valentina Rangel is done, and she will move back to the GHDs for her final set of 50.
Melina's taking a quick break here. Other than that, she's been moving pretty smooth. Look at that quick little snatch right into that next overhead squat.
We would expect Nievas to be the next woman onto the GHD. She was the 3rd woman to the one-armed dumbbell overhead squats, and now she is finished and will move back to the GHDs to join Cunha and Rangel. Top 3 women in this featured matchup on the top of your screen. From left to right, Laura Cunha, she was the first woman to the GHDs for the second time. Valentina Rangel right behind her. And then Sasha Nievas getting to work on her final set of 50.
Both Nievas and Cunha still have a really fast pace on those GHD sit-ups. Cunha's taking a quick break right there, but right back on them. Now Thais is back to her GHD and Melina is as well. So just Luiza Diaz is still finishing up those overhead squats.
Rodriguez was able to get a little closer to the top 3 athletes. She still has some distance to make up here though, but it does look like she may have cut into that lead slightly. But a lot of work still needs to be done here. 150 reps remain, 50 on the GHD, 50 more dumbbell deadlifts, and then they close out with those 50 dumbbell shoulder to overhead.
And I don't know if you saw Luiza Diaz, she was kind of pounding her thighs as she was walking back to her GHD. And you know, it's one thing to do those GHDs on the front half, but after 100 dumbbell overhead squats, your quads are so fired up that to have to get back into that GHD and rip off another 50 glute ham sit-ups is super tough.
Lari Cunha is now 8 reps into her set of 50 dumbbell deadlifts. She is all by herself in the lead right now in this featured matchup and trying to track down Victoria Campos' top time of 12 minutes, 59 seconds.
Approaching that 10-minute mark right now, so she's really got to move if she's going to beat that time.
Valentina Rangel was in second place coming into this movement. She just got back to working on her set of 50 after a break. Sasha Nievas has now caught Rangel for second. Nievas moving on to the dumbbell deadlifts. 50 reps here and then 50 reps on the shoulder to overhead. Nievas in second place.
And you can see Luiza Diaz, bless her heart. I mean, these glute ham sit-ups on the second half look so hard. She has to get her feet out of those foot straps for a second just to get a little relief from those quads, probably.
And a movement like this is not a heavy weight. You can move quickly, but sometimes if you move quickly, you don't adhere to standards. You have to make sure that you're opening your hips at the top of the movement.
And like we were saying, virtual competition, you know, if you have a slightly inexperienced judge or just a judge that's not catching it and they don't call you on it, you know, on the first couple reps, that could end up not just being a couple reps, but a major penalty in the long run.
Valentina Rangel in the middle is really getting close to maybe not standing up all the way.
She looks like she's skating that line.
Lari Cunha, meanwhile, continues to lead. Sasha Nievas on the right, upper right-hand part of your screen. She is in second place, and Rangel is in third. Rangel really needs to be careful on this movement. Cunha is now on to the final set of 50 dumbbell shoulder to overhead. She has a little more than a minute to complete all these reps if she wants to catch Victoria Campos' time, so that is going to be a tall order for Lari Cunha.
Luiza is finally off the GHD. She's onto her dumbbell deadlift, so everybody on the back half of this workout.
Melina Rodriguez is now moving to the dumbbell shoulder to overheads as she walks her dumbbells back.
She's actually caught up to Sasha Nievas at this point.
Has moved herself into third place as Valentina Rangel has fallen back into fourth.
Like we were saying earlier, Sean, it wasn't how fast you did the front half of this workout necessarily, but kind of how much you had left in the tank to finish strong on the second. And it looks like Melina Rodriguez is even doing a little jerk. Could be a really smart move on her part. Just a quick little dip underneath those dumbbells.
Rangel is now onto her set of 50 dumbbell shoulder to overheads. And that's the fight for third place in this featured match of Rangel at the top of your screen in the middle, Melina Rodriguez in the bottom right. And remember, you mentioned pacing. Rodriguez was the fifth person, maybe the fourth person to get to the dumbbell one-armed overhead squats and made up a lot of ground there and put herself in position to maybe challenge for one of the top spots in this featured matchup. Lari Cunha in the upper left hand, meanwhile, continues to lead. And she has a few more reps to go before she is done.
It's going to be a great battle between Valentina, Sasha, and Melina for this third place finish when you consider Victoria Campos.
Campos' time will stand as the top time at 12:59.
Just a
Cunha with a couple more.
Yep.
She's just gutting through these final reps.
Yeah. Now at this point, it's just kind of any set you've got, anything you can to finish up.
Cunha is in 13:43 for her to take this featured matchup.
Both Nievas and Rangel are really coming close to finishing up right here. Quick break from Nievas.
They are basically neck and neck right now. If you look at their progress bars on top of their boxes.
One puts them down, one picks them up, the other puts them down, the other picks them up.
And this is a case where if you were on the competition floor with your fellow competitors, it maybe changes how you break this up, as Nievas comes in at 14:14. She'll take second place in this featured matchup. And now Rangel is in at 14:19. She will take third, so Rodriguez unable to catch her for third place here in this featured matchup as Rodriguez is getting set to finish up. She has done 14:31 for her. So Nunes and Diaz, the only two women left here of the six.
Look how fast Diaz is. You know, she really seemed to kind of struggle on that second set of GHDs, kind of the middle of that workout. But now that she's gotten back to that shoulder to overhead, her reps are fast and they look really solid to finish.
Thais Nunes, going by the progress bar above her box, is the leader right now for fifth place in the featured matchup.
She could be on her last set right now by the looks of that progress bar.
Final 5 reps for her. And Nunes is in 15:25 for her. And now Diaz will wait for her to finish and find out what her time is going to be. And she looks to have about 10 reps or so to go here.
Making sure that when she picks them up, it's for the last time. Closing in. Hold on to him, Luiza. There you go.
Final few reps for Diaz, and she is in. 16:04 for her as she wraps up 6th place in this featured matchup.
It's the Lari Cunha show down in South America, and the overall leader after event 1 makes another big statement, throwing down in event number 2 alongside Gui Malheiros, this time ripping through the 100 overhead squats and the second set of 50 GHD sit-ups to keep pace ahead of the rest of the women behind her on the leaderboard and close out the first day of competition as your overall leader for the women down in Brazil.
Victoria Campos, 12:59, the only woman to go sub 13. She will win the event. Lari Cunha's mark of 13:43, good enough for second place. Rangel's time is not on this graphic because she received a major penalty for not extending her hips and knees during the dumbbell deadlift. We talked about that during event, so she now has a time of 16:29 to fall outside of the top 10 in the event results. Overall standings, heading into day number 2, Lari Cunha with a 16-point lead over Sasha Nievas. Victoria Campos is in third, 1 spot away from qualifying to the games. She has 12 points to make up on Sasha Nievas. Laura Gonzalez is another woman competing at the Brazil CrossFit Championship, and she spoke with Fabio Brokovich.
Laura Gonzalez, okay. Thanks for accepting my invitation to talk to us tonight. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for inviting me.
And what was your strategy for event number 2?
For event number 2, well, it's high rep. I did have a plan to break everything up from the beginning, so I just stuck with the rep scheme. I broke all the dumbbell, like just a short break and then pick it right back up. And then on the GHDs, I just kept moving. The overhead squats, I didn't have a strategy there. I kind of just went with one arm until I got tired, and then I would switch it overhead. go back. So just honestly, that workout, it's just keep going, you know.
On the women's side of the competition, no surprise that Lari Cunha is your overall leader. We expected that. But we didn't expect Melina Rodriguez to be 20 points out. Still a lot of points out there, but this is a bit of a surprise.
Right. We really thought the race for first was going to be between Melina and Cunha. Melina is a 3-time games competitor, 2 times as an individual, 1 time on the team. So again, she's only 20 points out from a qualifying position. There's 4 events left, but one of those events is a legless rope climb in event 5, and that could be an issue for Melina. So hoping that it's not and that she can secure herself a spot. We've yet to see.
Yeah, exciting day 1 at the Brazil CrossFit Championship. Be sure to keep checking in with CrossFit's YouTube channel and Facebook page as we have continuing coverage of this virtual weekend of the 2021 Noble CrossFit Games semifinals. We'll also be taking a close look at the CrossFit Lowlands Throwdown and the German CrossFit Throwdown as well. We'll be wrapping up all the individual action and all of the team events as well. That's going to do it for us. For Annie Sakamoto, I'm Sean Woodland. Remember, keep it here for all the news surrounding week 3 of the 2021 Noble CrossFit Games semifinals.